Okay, so before we start, can anybody remind us of the definition of religion? Hello? What is religion? As we learned last semester. Sandra, can you see my screen now?
Yes, please.
Okay. So Sandra, help us with the definition of of religion. What is religion? As we learned last semester.
Madam, please, I can't actually recall, but it's a unified system.
You can't recall?
Yeah, but it's a unified system. Okay.
Yes, go ahead. Unified system of words. Victos, your hand was up.
Yes, madam. Yes. Madam, please, if the practice is associated with the supernatural.
It is associated with the supernatural. Okay, thank you. So that is part of Lupinia's definition of religion. Anybody else? Solomon says it's a unified system of beliefs and practices. So Solomon, the beliefs is the F, not VES. So beliefs and practices associated with the sacred and the profane. Okay, thank you. Yes, so as Emil Durkheim defined it, it's a unified system of beliefs and practices associated with the supernatural, beliefs and practices. Okay, so you find this definition running through all or most of the other definitions, with Nukunya's definition saying that it is associated with beliefs in the supernatural. And a seaman posits that religion starts, especially for African religion, when people want to ward off or evil spirits. Okay, so it has to do with beliefs. We talked about it. So you have the belief in the supreme God, the nature God, the ancestors, and the lesser spirits. You have beliefs such as taboos, beliefs in totems, beliefs in witchcraft, beliefs in other spiritual entities. And then it's also characterized by practices, okay? An example is the rituals that characterizes religious activities. So when you talk about rituals, we are not only referring to the killing of animals and the pouring of libation. Rituals refers to things that are done repeatedly, okay? And these constitute ritual activities, right? Now, when you look at the traditional religion, it was also characterized by extreme ritualism. So what that means is that the activities of people, their beliefs, and everything was characterized by rituals. You have to pour libation if you want to clear a virgin land. You have to perform certain rituals if you are going to marry. Those rituals, by all means, would have to be performed. Okay. So all these things changed. Okay, and then one other characteristics of the traditional religious belief is that it is polytheistic. That is the belief in many gods. So you have people who can appeal to so many gods, who can visit so many shrines at the same time. And it is perfectly normal in the traditional African religion. So you can go to Tigari, from Tigari, you can go to Akonodi or Antoinyama, and that is perfectly normal with traditional religion. So now we would look at what has changed in traditional religion. What has changed? So we did all of these last semester, so I'm not going to go through. Right. So there have been changes in our traditional religion. And the two main religions that caused the change are Christianity and Islam. Okay, Christianity and Islam. These two religions caused changes in the traditional religions. They are also referred to as the Abrahamic religions, like from Abraham, because these two religions, together with Judaism, okay, take their inspiration from Abraham. They all claim Abraham to be their ancestors. And we have two of them being dominant in Ghana, Christianity and Islam. And these two religions have caused changes in the traditional religion. So we'll start with Christianity, and then when we are done, we will discuss Islam, looking at how Christianity and Islam penetrated Ghana, the changes that these two religions have introduced into the traditional African religion. So we'll start with Christianity. Right. So Christianity was introduced into Ghana by the missionaries. Okay. But they were supported by the colonialists. So you have to be able to make the distinction. The colonialists did not introduce Christianity, but rather they supported the proliferation of Christianity in the Gold Coast at that time. Even before Ghana became gold Coast. The missionaries were in Ghana. And the first missionary activity in Ghana was around the year 1471. And the church at that time was established at the Elmina Castle. When the Elmina Castle was built, the Europeans who came to live and trade there were also Christians. And so they started a church there. So that was the informal way Christianity started in the Gold Coast. But if you're talking about the formal introduction of Christianity, hello? Okay, so if you want to speak, please raise up your hand because I have muted everybody. And please do not unmute yourself unless you have a question. Okay, so you're saying that formally, when you talk about the formal introduction of Christianity, we're looking at where the organized missionaries came to Ghana. In the case of the 1471, these were independent people. These were traders who had settled in the Elmina Castle and who were meeting and worshiping in the castle. But in the case of the Basel missionaries and other missionaries who came, these were organized missionary groups who came to the Gold Coast at that time to establish churches here. So you have the Basel missionaries who came in 1921. Okay. And then you have the Methodists who came in 1835. You have the Evangelical Presbyterian, so the Basel missionaries and the Evangelical Presbyterians, they are all Presbyterians. The Basel missionaries rather came in 1829, not 1921. So they came in 1829. Okay, so they were the first to come. This was followed by the Methodists who came in 1835. You have the Evangelical Presbyterians who came in 1847. And then the Catholics were the last batch to come in 1880. Okay. And I was saying that the Evangelical Presbyterians and the Basel missionaries, they are all Presbyterians. But where the countries that they came from were just different. So the Basel missionaries came from Scotland, And then the Evangelical Presbyterian, the Bremen missionaries, they were Germans. And then they were later expelled from the country when the British took over, and then they lost their colony, which was Togo. And so they left. But other than that, both of them are Presbyterians. Okay, so these are missionary groups in Europe who decided to come to Africa to propagate the gospel in Africa. And then they were supported by the colonialists. So remember, I've said that the colonialists did not introduce Christianity themselves, even though most of them were Christians. They rather lent their support to the missionaries to establish their churches in the Gold Coast. And then, so the kind of help that they offered them was giving them protection. Okay. Some of the natives, quote unquote, let me just use the word natives because we are discussing colonialism. That is how they refer to us. Some of the natives were very hostile to the missionaries. Andres Rees, I believe, went to propagate the gospel in Kumasi, and the Ashantis captured him. You know, they kidnapped him, and the colonialists had to come in. So when they are going to the interior to propagate the gospel, the colonialists will offer them protection. They will give them soldiers, you know, to go with. Most of these churches started from southern Ghana. So the Methodists were in Cape Coast. That is where they established their headquarters. The Basel missionaries started from the Christianborg Castle, and then they later moved to the Kropong. That is where they started from. Okay. The Catholics also started from Cape Coast, and then the Evangelical Presbyterians started from Peki in the Volta region. So you would see that they were all along the coast, and later on they pushed hinterland to spread their message. And they needed the protection of the colonialists to do that. If the colonialists didn't offer them protection, most of them would have been killed by the indigents at that time. Right. And then they also started establishing schools as part of their mission work. In fact, they could preach at a place for a year or even 2 years without getting a single convert. And then they thought that the way to go in getting converts was to establish schools. And these schools, they used as avenues to propagate their message. So wherever the missionaries went, they also established schools, and they got the blessing of the colonial administration to establish their schools. And so you would find out that most of the second cycle schools in Ghana are mission schools. So first of all, they would establish a primary school and then add a secondary school to it. The Presbyterians went further and established a teacher training school. That is the Presbyterian Training College. Now the Presbyterian College of Education at Ekropong to train their own teachers to be able to teach in the schools. So that is how the colonialists offered them help so that they would be able to propagate their gospel. So by that, the gospel began to be spread into the hinterland. So from there, the Kropong, they went to Achim, the Presbyterians went to Achim, then they went to Kumasi. The Methodists did the same. The Catholics did the same. Later, the Anglican Church, which was known as the Church of England, also joined them to propagate the gospel. Okay, so apart from that, that is the help that they got from the colonial administration. There are other factors that has helped in the propagation of the gospel. Now, about 71% of Ghanaians say that they are Christians. So how come that from a small number of people who were converted to Christianity, now you have over 70% of Ghanaians who claim to be Christians, to the extent that people even think that, or they say that Ghana is a Christian nation, because you have majority of the people claiming to be Christians, right? So other factors, any questions, please? Any question for me? Right. So there are other factors that has helped to spread Christianity, and it's still spreading. When the Statistical Service of Ghana releases the census, the just ended census results, we would know whether there has been any change in the number of people who claim to be Christians, whether it has gone up or it has declined. Okay, so other factors are the social aspiration of people. People think that when you go to church, you would meet your social aspirations. There are people who want to improve their status in Ghana. There are people who want to go abroad now. When you go to church, you know, there are a lot of people there, those who want to travel, those who want employment, those who want to drive big cars. They are trooping to the churches, they are attending prayer meetings, and people think that the church would offer them the things that they are looking for in life, the symbols of success. So in Ghana, if you are successful, you should be driving a good car, you should be living in a big house, You should travel abroad. You should have a good job. And people think that they would get all of these things when they attend church. Some people even go because they feel that they will get their marriage partners, at the church. So that is one. And then long life, to be able to enjoy all the things that you have acquired, you have to live long. And then you should also look to our traditional religion to understand people's quests for long life. As Simeon has said that the beginning of religion is the warding off of unfit. People are afraid of evil spirits. They feel that there are witches in their families who want to kill them, okay? And to get protection from all the witches and the wizards in our families, we seek a higher power, a higher authority that would protect us from these lesser spirits and lesser gods that we discussed last semester. So people will go to church, pray, and seek for protection and seek for long life in church. It's funny that in Ghana, when people are propagating the gospel, they use what people will get out of the church as their message. Come to church and all your troubles will be solved. If you want a visa, you will get it. If you want good grades, come to church. Even on campus, it's interesting that when it's time for exams, that's when you see a lot of students in church. When it's not time for exams, they don't go to church. But when it's time for exams, they troop to church. They are going to pray for wisdom and for more knowledge. And sometimes they even pray that the lecturers will be lenient with them in marking the exams, So people go to church for different reasons. There are so many things that attract them. Social mobility is one, for people to be able to move from shade to P, or that what you say, like in a lot of the songs, they were at ground zero and God has promoted them. Okay, so they want to move upwards, they want social stratification, more status, more money, economic progress. People will leave their wares at the market and they will go and pray all day for so many days. They want to progress in life. And then the educational institutions have also played a huge role in the propagation of the gospel. As I said, one of the means of converting people was the establishment of educational institution. So those days, if you went to a Methodist school or to a Presbyterian school, you had to go to church by force. It was compulsory. And you have to go to the church of the school you attended. So if you went to a Presbyterian school, you have to attend the Presbyterian church, because on Sunday, they would even mark the register, how many people came to church, how many people were in Sunday school. And then they have morning devotion in the school, and they introduced subjects. In my time, we called it BK, Bible knowledge. You know, these were subjects that were introduced into the schools that you have to learn, whether you like it or not. And so the schools played a huge role. Even currently, the schools are playing roles in spreading the gospel on Legon campus. You have so many churches on campus, all the big churches, all the small churches, all of them want to have branches here, and they use the universities as the recruitment grounds for their members. So some start from here as their church leaders, as prayer secretaries. By the time they complete their university education, some want to go into ministry. They go to Bible schools, to Trinity College, and train as pastors and ministers of God. And so the educational institutions play a huge role in the propagation of the gospel. Okay, and then the last one is the diversity of churches. There are so many churches that it makes it seem as if that the gospel is progressive, that we have new members in the church. Because every day you wake up, you find a new church in some corner, either meeting in a school, some are meeting in homes. These days, people are meeting at hotels, filling stations. They build a filling station and then they add a church to it. People are meeting in uncompleted buildings, you know, wherever there is space, you find people there. And so you get the impression that Christianity is ever increasing. Right, so we'll talk about the diverse nature of the churches, why churches are popping up every now and then. Okay, any question? So raise up your hand if you have a question. Okay. So there are some questions in there. So Sandra is asking me to go over the social stratification. So social stratification, I believe you have done it in 222, is the layering of people according to prestige, according to status, and according to income levels, that is class. So you have people in a society who are put into certain classes based on these three things that I have talked about their class, that is their income level, about the status or the prestige that they have in society. Okay, So people want to move from one class to the other. That is social stratification. So if you are at the lower level, so we have 5 levels according to Max Weber. So we have the working class, the lower class, the middle class. Even the middle class, you can divide that into 2, the lower middle class and the upper middle class, and then the upper class. So these are grouping people into classes. So there are people who want to move from one class to the other. So the working class, those who work at factories, who do menial jobs, those are referred to as the working class. And there are people who want to move from the working class to the lower class. And there are people who want to move from the lower class to the lower middle class, to the middle class, or to the upper middle class, or to the upper class, okay? And people believe that the church offers them the opportunity to move. So these days, pastors have been accused of preaching only the prosperity gospel, that when you come to church, God will prosper you, God will move you from A to B, okay? So that is the social stratification, and people think that they can get to a different class by going to church. Okay, Halima, your hand is up. Can you unmute yourself? Okay, Halima, unmute yourself. Hello? Halima, can you unmute yourself? You are muted. You can't unmute yourself.
Madam, please, I've been able to unmute myself.
Okay, great. So please go
Madam,
ahead.
please, okay. I wanted to suggest that could one of the factors for the shift to Christianity be that when you are a Christian, you are regarded as more civilized and sophisticated, in quotes, compared to somebody who is in the traditional religion?
Exactly. Yes, yes, you are right. So now it has become a status symbol, right? To go to church. So people now add it to their achievements, their CV. I am a Christian, I am a Presbyterian, I am a Methodist, yes. So now, if you don't go to church, you are seen as backward, okay? And you hear people say, but we have people who visit the shrines, but they are seen as backward. You are seen as progressive and civilized when you attend church. So you can add it to the points. Thank you. Any more suggestions, please? Apart from what we have listed. Hello.
Hi.
Yes, Sandra, you have a question.
Madam, please, you can go ahead.
Okay, thank you. So let me talk about conversion. Even though I mentioned it in person, it is not on the slide, so you can write conversion. How did the missionaries convert their their people, or the people, not their people? How do they convert people? And I have said that initially they were not successful in converting people. So they thought that building schools would rather help them to convert people. And there is a statement here that is attributed to Nana Adodankwa, chief of Ekropon, not our president. And he says that when God created the world, he made books for the white man and fetishes for the black man. But if you can show us some black man who can read the white man's book, then we will follow you. So this statement is attributed to Nana Adodankwa, the chief of Ekropon, and you can find it in page 153 of Nukunye's book, Tradition and Change. So those who have the book, please refer to page 153, Wooing of Converts, for the statement attributed to Nana Adodankwa, the chief of Ekropon at that time. So they found out that the schools were more attractive to the people than the gospel. So they decided to build schools and convert the young ones who would come to the schools and use them probably to convert their parents, that is the older generations. So at that time, before any church would start, they would first of all build a school, use the children as their members, and then from there, they could move on to propagate the older ones. So that is for conversion, how they went about their business. Okay. And one other thing I also want to stress is about the doctrine of Christianity, the doctrines of Christianity. The first is the doctrine of monotheism. The doctrine of monotheism. That is the belief in one God. So if you're a Christian, you cannot have other gods. And this is contained in the 10 Commandments. So they stress that the natives could not come to church, okay, and visit the shrines at the same time. So somebody says, Madam, were the children more like conduit to get to their parents? Yes. The children were used as conduits to get to their children, and then to convert the children themselves. So some of the children who went to school, many of them became catechists of the Presbyterian Church. And so most of the catechists were also teachers. So after you have completed, they will take you to PTC. You go and train as a teacher and then as catechists. And then you also help to propagate the gospel. So the children were used as conduits to get to their parents and other people in their community. Okay, so that is one. And then I was talking about the doctrine of Christianity, which is like quite different from the traditional religion. So monotheism, the belief in monotheism, as opposed to African traditional religion being polytheistic, okay, the belief in the universality of sin, that whether you have committed an actual sin or not, you are a sinner. Once you are a human being, you are a sinner in need of salvation. So that was a doctrine. So whether you have killed somebody or you have stolen, it doesn't matter. You are considered a sinner until you have believed in Christ. And so we are all sinners according to the Christian religion in need of salvation. And then the third is that after you have believed, you have to be baptized. And the baptism was the symbol that you have converted from paganism, as they termed it at that time, to Christianity. And then you took on a Christian name. Okay, so if you were Kofi Mensah, after you were baptized, you will be given a Christian name. You will be called John or Peter. These were very popular Christian names. Then, if you're a woman, you would be called Mary. So there are a lot of Marys. Then Susanna, Priscilla, and all those Christian names. So these Christian names, they are different from English names. So English names are English names. Christian names are the names that are in the Bible. So after your conversion, you'll be baptized, you take on a new identity. You'll be called John, Peter, Andrew, Mark, as the outward sign that you have now converted to Christianity. Okay, so on your screens, you can see the trends in religious affiliations in Ghana, and you can see the progression of Christianity and Islam, okay, and the retrogression of traditional religions. So in 1970, only about a half of the Ghanaian population said they were Christian. 53% and 14% said they were Christian, and as much as 21% said they were traditional African religion, and 11.3% said they didn't belong to any religion. Fast forward to 2010, and you can see that as much as 71% of Ghanaians say they are Christians. Islam has also gone up. Traditional religion has declined. And those who said they do not belong to any religion, okay, has also declined. So as I said, the 2021 census will tell us whether more people are being converted to Christianity and Islam, okay, or the number is declining. Okay, so these are some dynamics of the current religious landscape in Ghana. Because of where the two religions started from, I've said that Christianity started from southern Ghana, especially from the coast, whilst Islam started from northern Ghana. Okay, so in northern Ghana, you find more Muslims than Christians, whereas in southern Ghana, you find more Christians than Muslims. That is not to say that there are no Muslims in southern Ghana or there are no Muslims in northern Ghana. Just that if you take the averages, you have more Christians in the north than in the south. In the same way, you have more Christians in the south than the north. The region with the highest number of those who belong to the traditional Ghanaian religion is the Upper East region, okay? So you find some Muslims there, you find some Christians there, but most of them believe in the African religion. And then you see the gender distribution of the religions as well. You have more females being Christians than males. And then in Islam, you have more males being Muslims than Christians. So I guess you know why you find more women who profess to be Christians than men. Any ideas? Why do you find more women being Christians than men? And go to the churches, you find more women. Sometimes you find a few men in the church. Any reason?
Hello, madam.
Yes.
Madam, I think it's because of how most women are easily convinced. Convinced.
Women are easily convinced.
Yeah, most. Not all. Yeah, not all.
Okay. Who else? He says he can easily convince women. Elizabeth.
Okay, madam. Also, because women are more than men in society too.
Okay.
And also women tend to believe in things easily than that of men. And men, they always have their belief in their forefathers and stuff things. So.
Okay. Thank you. So Kabuki is saying you have more women in Ghana. So if you have more women in churches, then Nanyan, right? Okay, Alima.
Madam, please, I believe most of the time in Ghana, it's mostly women that are praying for marriage and children, like giving birth or something. So these two things send more women into churches. Most of the time when men are in church, they are there for mostly economic gains, like to get money and other stuff.
Okay.
That's what I think.
But the women, they are there for the men. They are praying for their husbands and their sons and daughters. Hey, who says God is a woman? Esther. Esther says God is a woman. Esther, explain yourself. Why in the Bible does it say God is a woman? And why is she? Esther has vanished. Esther, answer yourself. Hey, Esther, where are you? And Victor is saying that God is not a man too.
Wow.
Okay, so maybe we
Doctor.
have to get some theologians to help us, whether God is a man or a woman or is both. Esther, why do you say God is a woman? He says women get social status in church that is denied elsewhere. This is from Prince. Some social theories argue that men and women without power or status in a community are more likely to turn to religion as a form of compensation. Prince, where did you get this from? Yes, so Prince is right. Yeah.
From a PDF.
Pardon?
From a PDF.
From a PDF, yes. Yes, so you are right. Some studies, especially in South Korea, actually show that women get status from the church. So they would go to church there. They can become Bible study leaders. They can become women leaders and get into other positions that ordinarily they would not get outside the church. Yes, so you are perfectly right. Esther says what? You can't really point it out. If you can't point it out, then why did you say that? If you have evidence, then you can tell us that. But if you don't have any evidence that God is a woman, then you don't say that. Okay. Any more questions? Yes.
Madam, please again, from their local perspective, women like pray for me too much.
Women like what?
Pray for me.
They like pray for me.
Yes, please.
Why wouldn't they like pray for me when you boys
Pastor, pray for me.
in the house? So your mother has to pray, go to church.
Mommy, I'm on.
When the women are praying, you should go and hear them. Me buy you, my son. When you stop worrying your mothers, they will stop going to church and do pray for me. Okay, so that was just by the way. Esther, now you are prepared to talk.
Yes, doctor.
Okay, go ahead.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Please, I believe God is a woman because in the Bible, women are everywhere.
Women are everywhere. The fact that women are everywhere doesn't make God a woman.
Madam,
the fact that women are everywhere doesn't make God a woman. Okay, let's go on. So I have talked about the diversity of churches, the proliferation of churches, the fact that you find a lot of denominations, a seeming calls them sects. Okay, but I think that he uses the word sects here loosely. Sects kind of have some derogatory undertone to it. So we're looking at the diversities. Why are there so many Christian denominations, even though they all believe in one God? Okay, remember I've said that central to the Christian belief is the belief in one God, Yahweh. Okay, you cannot believe in any other God. So why are there so many Christian denominations and Christian sects. We're looking at them. So these are the reasons that Esimen has given for the diversity in Christianity, the proliferation of Christian churches, where you have a lot of churches with names, different names. Right. So the first is the different interpretation of the Christian scriptures. This is just one Bible in English or in any other local language. But people have different interpretations of the scriptures, and we are human beings, so we see things differently, okay? And so you see the diversity occurring because of the different ways that people understand the scriptures and the different ways that they find meaning in the church. Sorry, in the scriptures. Okay, so you can take any one Christian scripture, and people have diverse interpretations. Some will say it means this and that. Okay, there is a scripture in Tree that says "Monom namombo," drink and do not get drunk. Okay, and so based on this scripture, some denominations allow their people to take in alcohol. And some say that the Bible didn't say you should drink, but just do not get drunk. Okay, and so they will drink, they will not get drunk. And others will say that is not what it means. That what it means is that maybe God has cursed them, so they will drink and drink and drink, but they will never get drunk. So people have different interpretations of the scripture, and that accounts for the diversity and the denominations that we see. So that is one. Two is the variation in the mode of worship. Okay, how they worship is different, and that accounts for the different denominations. In some churches, like the Presbyterians and the Orthodox, the choir will process, okay, wearing their choir robe, and they would sing and process in and out. So procession hymn, recession hymn. Other churches, you just come and sit there. The pastor will just come, and somebody will come and say that I am the MC for today's service. In other churches, they will call them the liturgists. So somebody will say, I am the liturgy for today's service. In some churches, they will read the Bible 3 times. In Methodists, when they are reading the gospel, everybody must, stand up whilst the gospel is being read. In other churches, nobody comes there to read the Bible. The pastor who is preaching reads his own Bible and does his own preaching, and that is it. Some churches would clap, others don't. Some use instruments, others don't use instruments. So these two are the main reasons why we find the different denominations. Okay, so assuming provides further distinction between the denominations. Okay, so when the churches started, you had the major mainline churches, okay, the Protestants and the Catholics, and together they form the Orthodox churches. So before then, there was only one universal church, the Catholic Church. So Catholic actually means universal. And then there was a split in the Catholic Church. And then the Protestants came out of the Catholic Church. So Martin Luther started the Reformation churches, of which the Presbyterian churches, the Lutheran churches, and the other churches are part. Then you have the Anglican Church, who broke off from the Catholic Church. Then you have the Methodists, who started in Britain, okay, also came out from the Anglican Church. So together, these are known as the Orthodox churches, okay? And then from the Orthodox churches, we had a further split. And the Simon has categorized them into the millennial churches from the word millennium, and then the thematurgical churches. Okay, so I hope you get me. So we have one Catholic church, okay, then a split came, then you had the Protestants, okay. So the Catholics plus the Protestants are known as the Orthodox churches, okay. And from the Orthodox churches, you had more breakups, okay. And then the breakups that came out of the Orthodox churches, you have the millennial churches and then the thematurgical churches. So these are two main groups, okay. So the millennial churches, according to a Simon, are the churches that preach the end of the world. So these are churches that give a specific time that maybe at the end of the millennium, the world was going to end. And I don't know how many of you were born in the year 1999 to 2000, how many of you were a little bit older? But before we entered the 21st century, the new millennium, there were a lot of conspiracy theories. Some said that the world would end. And in fact, some churches encouraged their members to sell everything that they had. You know, people sold their buildings, they sold their belongings, because they thought that on the stroke of 31st December 2000, the world would end. But we are still here, 21 years on. And there was something known as the Y2K. They said that there was going to be a millennium bug. So it was going to be something like a virus that would attack all systems. So there would be a total shutdown. The airport would not work any longer because the bug would infest all the computer systems. The banks would not be able to work because all their systems would shut down. So this bug was going to affect every software in the globe. And people were so fearful. So some people went to the bank and withdrew all their monies for fear of not being able to access their money when we turned 1st January 2000. Okay. And so the churches that preach the nearness of the world are the Jehovah's Witnesses and the SDA. In fact, if you look at the history of these two churches, SDA started in the US, the same as the Jehovah's Witnesses. They have actually, in some points in their history, gave timelines as to when the world was going to end. So a Simeon calls them the millennial churches, from the word millennium, that when the millennium ends and another one is going to begin, the world would come to an end. As recently as 2011, 2011, on 11th November 2011, so it was like 11/11/2011. Some people prophesied that the world would end. Somebody also that year said the world would end on 25th May, but it didn't end. So Assimian calls these the millennial churches. And Assimian says that these churches are dominated by poor people. People who are poor, they don't have money. So if you tell them that the world is going to end today, they are rather happy because they have nothing to lose. That is a Simeon saying, that's not me, so don't come and beat me. Okay, so he says that these are dominated by poor people, but avoided by the rich, because the rich who have a lot of money would not want to go to these churches for fear that when the world ends, they would not be able to enjoy their riches. They will lose everything. Okay. Then from the millennial churches, we have the other group known as the thematurgical churches. And these are the miracle working churches. These are churches that believe in miracles, the speaking of tongues, okay? They believe in faith healing, that if you are sick, just pray to God and God will heal you. And these churches are dominated by the Pentecostals and the Charismatics. Previously, you could tell the difference between the Pentecostals and the Charismatics, but these days the differences are very minimal. They are blurred, so you don't see the differences in them. Okay, all the Pentecostals, all the Charismatics believe in the speaking in tongues, Holy Spirit baptism. They believe in miracles, that you can pray and God can perform a miracle in your life. They believe in faith healing, that you can get healed if you have faith. Okay, so according to a Simeon, these churches are dominated by more women than men, and also you have more migrants in these churches than indigents, because of what we discussed earlier on, people wanting to aspire in life, people wanting to move on in life, okay, people wanting to progress for economic gain. So for migrants, those are the churches which are perfect for them, because they would they have an avenue, okay, to express themselves, a place where they can get hope of a better future from where they are. Right, so on your screen now, just some statistics on religious affiliation: Catholics, Protestant, Pentecostals, and Charismatics, and other Christians. So if you combine Pentecostals and Charismatics, you have more Pentecostals and Charismatics than Protestants and Catholics. And you'll see that the Catholics are declining, the Protestants are declining marginally, 18.6 in 2000 to 18.4 in 2010. The Pentecostals and the Charismatics are increasing, and then the other Christians are also increasing. Any question, please? Okay, so our time is almost up. So let me move a little bit faster. So the impact of Christianity on our society. So the first is the alienation of traditional Africans from their African culture. And they succeeded in doing this by referring to most of our African culture as paganistic. Okay, when Christianity started, they banned drumming and dancing. So that time, if you went to a Methodist, a Presbyterian, or a Catholic church, they only sang hymns. There was no drumming, there was no dancing, there was no clapping of hands, okay? And so we have become alienated from our own culture. And a lot of our cultural practices are seen as fetish. So now naming ceremony, instead of touching the tongue of the child with alcohol, people are now using soft drinks. They are using Fanta and Sprite in doing that. When people are marrying, instead of the schnapps, people say, I am a Christian, so in my church, we don't drink, so I would rather make it money. So gradually, we are losing our African culture because all of these are termed as fetish or paganist in nature. And then the Christian doctrine of monotheism has caused people to have a lesser respect for the lesser gods and other gods. People are no longer afraid of the lesser gods. People don't obey the taboos any longer. Don't go fishing on Tuesday and somebody says that I am a Christian and my God is bigger, my God is greater, and is going to protect me. And so they will go fishing. Do not steal. And people steal because they feel that the lesser gods would not sanction them. If you look at what is happening with our water bodies, the Galamsey menace. Previously, people were so much afraid of water bodies. They are afraid of rivers. They are afraid of streams. They dare not pollute it. And now people pollute the water bodies because we are no longer afraid of the spirits that inhabit them. Okay, and then the third point is that there is some conflict or friction between traditionalists and people who have converted to other faith. In the colonial times, the conflicts were very real. The chiefs were very angry because the missionaries were preventing their people, the converts, from participating in traditional rites. So as I said, if you were attending a missionary school, and those days, all the schools were missionary schools. It was later that public schools were established. So if you went to a missionary school, you must not be seen near a festival. If the festival is going on, you cannot join them. You cannot partake in any ritual or in any cultural activity. And that brought some conflicts. And in fact, the Presbyterians especially established colonies within the towns and the villages where they resided. So when you go to Ekropon, there is Ekropon Salem, and Salem